Okay, so if I don't use those story structures, but I kind of do, what do I do to get through my novels? Let's chat. Hi, I'm Roshni Lamino. I am an actress, a voiceover artist, a fantasy novelist, a former game writer, songwriter. I've worn a lot of creative hats over the years, and I thought I would just organize all my thoughts on all things creative here on this channel because why not? Maybe you'll find it useful. Also, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room that probably doesn't bother you, but is kind of bothering me. I'm wearing the same shirt because I'm batch recording today, and I forgot to turn on my microphone the first time I recorded all of these, and I was changing outfits. Now I have a cat on my lap, and I don't care enough to go change my shirt. So here we go. All right. Now we got that out of the way. As far as story structure and writing, I use a very loose framework of everything I described in the previous video. There's parts and pieces that I like from them that I use, and then I don't stick to a super rigid structure. That's where they lose me. From the Pixar story structure, I like the generic roadmap feel of it, the logline feel of it. And I think I mentioned that in the last video where I basically use it as a general guideline to know where I'm going. I will use a logline sometimes, especially if I'm stuck mid-story. From the Save the Cat, what I use is word count. So what I do with my novels is I'm using Atticus. This is not a sponsored video. It's just the word program that I prefer because I can format and write in it. And one nice thing with Atticus is it gives you okay, so you can set your word count for what you want your novel to be. And it'll give you daily goals, like you can set your daily goals, and then it'll also tell you where you are in your novel, like you're 50% done, you're 75% done, based on your word count. Now, word count matters because genre, different genres have different word counts. And I'm in YA fantasy, which is about 60 to 80K words. You can go a little higher, thanks J.K. Rowling. Harry Potter kind of blew those word counts out of the water. You could go lower. You know, my first novel was 55K, and it's actually higher because I beefed it up a bit. I realized coming from a screenwriting background that I didn't really describe a lot of things. And so I got into the mode of like, okay, I need to, you know, really describe the world and just do more world building. So now I can usually hit about 70K really easily. But I set my word count at 80,000. And if I can hit 80,000, life is good. So how do I use word count to structure my stories? Two ways. The first way, the big way, is I will look at the word count and I'll say, okay, 10,000 words. By 10,000 words, I should have the base stuff out. You know who my main character is by then. You know who they are, what they're about, what they're like, their day to day life, you know, what their world kind of is like, things like that. And by 10,000 words, they should have also been given their quest, right? Like they should also have an idea of what the main goal of the novel is. We're not even going to get an ABC story, the A story of your book, right? Um, Then I start writing, blah, 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 blah. 60,000 words. By 60K, I should be wrapping this puppy up. Meaning by 60K, they should be having the showdown with the big bad. They should be discovering the treasure. Whatever the A story is, the A story is wrapping up. Um, that's my stomach. Oh my gosh, it's lunchtime. The A story should be wrapping up and they should be hitting that climax of the book at this point. And then from 60 to 80, that's wrap up. You know, that's they've had the battle, they've this is the aftermath of the battle, maybe even like a little bit in the future about like, you know, how they all fared years later. I don't know, whatever. But this so by 60K we're wrapping up, but from between 60 and 80, that's you know, ending it completely. And I like to write short, punchy chapters. So I also use you can do word count for chapter selection and the overall book. And I will use the chapter word count to be like, okay, I need to wrap up this chapter. So my sweet spot's usually about 1,500 words, maybe to 1,700. I try not to go above 2,000. Like by 1,000 is when I'm like, okay, I need to start thinking about ways of wrapping up this chapter. Um, and that's how I use word count to my to structure my novels. But the main way I write is improv. Okay. It's going to sound weird. Why am I using improv to write my novels? I blame it on the fact that when I was writing my first novel, that was during the pandemic. And here's what was happening in my life at that time. So, a few months before the pandemic, my agent said, "Hey, you really need to take an improv class." And I had dabbled in improv here and there. I had taken a class at Groundlings. I had taken a class at Upright Citizens Brigade. I had taken a class at Second City. But I had never done a full curriculum. And my agent's like, you need to go pick one of the schools, do the full course load, get it on your resume. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So I signed up for Upright Citizens Brigade. And I was all set to go to the classes. And then that was March of 2020. And so the school shut down. Fortunately, they pivoted to online classes. And I was home. What else was I going to do? So I took the improv classes back to back to back. I took 101 all the way up to 401. Some of the stuff in improv you can't really learn through a screen. Like scene work is a little hard. Like, here, give me that box. I will give you that box now. Like, it's just kind of weird. But the fundamentals we could get in in an online class. And I was writing my novel at the time, my first novel. And well, okay, I take that back. It's not actually my first novel. It was my first published novel, Air of Amber and Fire. And the thing about that was I think the principles of improv sort of blended in my head with writing principles because I found that using basic improv tenets just helped me flow my story. Like it just flowed. So, what are the basics of improv? Well, one basic rule of improv is yes and. Okay. You might have heard this concept before. So, what is yes anding? Let's say your scene partner, you get up on stage, your scene partner says, "Hey, Gloria, I didn't think you would show up today because I know how lazy you are. But today is the day that the boss comes in and checks our work so we can get raises. So don't let me down. I know how lazy you are." Okay? You've just been given a gold mine. All right? Your partner named you. They said, "You're my coworker. You're lazy. You don't tend to show up for work, but it's a big day today because the boss is showing up and we could get raises if we do well. So you need to work hard, Gloria, because I know how lazy you are." You have a gold mine. Now, yes and means you say yes to everything they said. Yes, I'm your lazy coworker. Yes, I'll probably screw this up for us today. And you and it. Yeah, I know. I didn't want to come in today. You know me. It's hard to get up before 3 p.m., but whatever. I'm sure if you do all the work, because I know how conscientious you are, Bob, then we'll both get raises. So why don't you go clean out the deep fryer and I'll cheer you on. Yeah, I'm a good cheerleader. Okay. So what did I do there? I just agreed with everything you said about me, and then I gave you a little bit of nugget too. I know how conscientious you are, Bob. You're not going to let this raise go. So I'll let you do the work for both of us. Awesome. Have fun. Okay. So Bob, the character playing Bob, the guy playing Bob would probably yes and that. And then you keep building the scene. Skilled improvisers could probably know, like they could say no to all that, but you're really not supposed to do that because if you say no, but you kill the scene. So if they come at you and say, "Gloria, you're really lazy. Today's the big day. The boss is going to check our work." and you go, "No, Bob, you're the lazy one. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm amazing. I work harder than anyone here." You've basically killed the scene by negating everything they said. And you're going to have to work that much harder to make the entire thing work. Okay. Which is why we say yes and. Randomly, I'm going to say also, improv is a great skill to have just in general. For business, for interpersonal relationships, it's active listening. So it is a really, really good skill to have. And they actually have like improv for business and improv for like communication. I highly recommend an improv class. If nothing else, it'll make you a better communicator. Active listening, great stuff. Okay. So I had my base character. And this is where character comes into play again. Jenica is a princess on the run from an arranged marriage. She's never left home. What would that be like? What would that look like? She's been sheltered. She can't even, you know, make her dress up without a servant helping her or doing her hair. She's never been on an adventure before. She's probably a little soft. Why would she have to know? Why would she wield a sword? She doesn't know how to wield a sword. So whenever I put her in a situation, her character is going to react logically. It's going to yes and whatever's happening. She goes on an adventure. She leaves the top button unbuttoned because she doesn't know how to button her dress without a servant's help. Her hair looks like a rat's nest. She takes up with some mercenaries. She's hopeless in a fight. She's never had to fight before. She doesn't pick up a sword. She doesn't know how to do it. But she can learn and grow. She can say, "Hey, teach me how to fight." But she's not going to pick up a sword and suddenly know how to whack somebody because she's never had to do it before, right? Let's be logical about this. So I yes anded everything that was happening in the scene, and it just built up from there. And that's how I built my story. So I use some of the frameworks, but I also use the improv principles of yes and to build the frame, build the world, build the character, and as long as the characters behave logically, whatever plot point I threw at them, you stay true to the character personality and you yes and it. Um, that's probably a very loosey goosey way of structuring, but again, I'm a pantser, so there you have it. If anything, use the story structure that works for you, that resonates the most with you. Take an improv class. I can't recommend it enough. I love improv. I love improv. Um, but yeah, I feel like as a pantser, especially improv would probably be the the biggest help. It's like structureless structure in a way. So I can't recommend it enough. I don't know. What method do you use? How do you get through your screenplays and your novels? Let me know. Write in the comments if you want to keep the discussion going. I do have a Discord. If you want to read my books, if you want to support the channel, all that information is down below. Links to my books, links to memberships. Um, yeah, if you found this useful, tell your friends, share it with people. You know where all the buttons are. Hit all the buttons. And the most important thing, get out there and create your art because the world really needs more art right now. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll talk to you in a future video.